Yep.
Let's start with this one. Reverend William Barber has been the, and you mentioned his speech was fantastic. His speech blew me away.
His speech, like that's the kind of speech where literally you almost feel your body being.
Yeah.
Like you're just like that. You just sit there and you say, "Wow."
Yeah,
it's just that good.
Here is a segment of that speech. Again, this is the guy who has been one of the main driving forces behind the Moral Mondays movement in North Carolina, which has been going on now for a couple of years. Here's the Reverend William Barber.
That's why I'm so concerned about those that say so much about what God says so little, while saying so little about what God says so much. And so, in my heart, I'm troubled and I'm worried by the way faith is cynically used by some to serve hate, fear, racism, and greed. We need to heed the voice of the scriptures. We need to listen to the ancient chorus in which deep calls unto deep. The prophet Isaiah cries out, "What I'm interested in seeing you doing, says the Lord, as a nation is, pay people what they deserve. Share your food with the hungry. Do this, and then your nation shall be called a repairer of the breach." Jesus, a brown-skinned Palestinian Jew, called us to preach good news to the poor, the broken, and the bruised, and all those who were made to feel unaccepted. Our Constitution calls us to commit our government to establish justice, to promote the general welfare, to provide for the common defense, and to ensure domestic tranquility. Now, to be true, we have never lived this vision perfectly, but this ought to be the goal at the heart of our democracy. And when religion is used to camouflage meanness, we know that we have a heart problem in America.
And he goes on, I should say...
It goes out with the defibrillator. That was just amazing.
It was an amazing run. It got the entire convention shook. And he made a point of saying, there's a lot of, obviously, God talk here, but he made a point in his speech of saying it doesn't matter, Muslim, Jew, Hindu, Buddhist, whether you practice no faith, whether you Christian, I mean, he went. He's an incredibly great speaker, very inclusive.
Well, what was really important, I'll just say quickly, is exposing the emperor as having no clothes, and the Democrats don't do that enough. In other words, on religion, he was exposing that they just use it when, the parts that are convenient for them and use it for fear.
Right.
But most of the stuff that you actually hear and read God and Jesus saying, they're nowhere close to. And they don't embrace, they outright violate. The other important thing, though, let me say quickly, that he did, and I do this, so I'm so glad to hear other people, except for I'll admit that I can't do it with near his charisma and swagger, which is when the Republicans claim the Constitution as their own. They do this, they refer to themselves as constitutional conservatives, which is such a pile of crap, as they're advocating for torture, for example. But they do this, and I go up against the gun nuts they do this. And so for a while now, I've been pushing back by writing and pointing out the fact that, in the preamble of the Constitution, it talks about the general welfare and domestic tranquility as being what the government's supposed to be there for. And when people are being shot in our streets by military-style weaponry, they're failing at that. And yet I can't understand why we've never, embraced those aspects of the Constitution as much. Every time they say Second Amendment or something, even if it's not the Second Amendment, constitutional conservative or whatever, we should point out what actually is in the preamble there as in the most important part of what our government's supposed to do that conservatives are completely opposed to. And he does that and does it better than I ever could. So I'm so glad, and I hope that it picks up and other people do.
I hope you're right. Hello, you. I'm Sam Seder. Looking for smart progressive talk that is occasionally amusing? Well, subscribe to our YouTube feed. Subscribe to our podcast. Like us on Facebook. And just generally enjoy us.